What is up, Cabbage crew? It is Matt and John here for episode 11 of the Cabbage Crew podcast. Today we're going to be talking about why Avatar: The Last Airbender never hit mainstream, or at least why did not hit mainstream up until 2024, and why, I would say why it hasn't even gotten more popular since the show. I mean, we probably know that, but, you know. So, John, you said you really wanted to talk about this topic.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
No, I really want to talk about it, too. But you seemed very enthusiastic about talking about it. So make the case. Yeah, I've never seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm like, never even heard of it. What makes it, I wouldn't say what makes it good, but what could make it as big as The Lord of the Rings? Like, if I'm a studio and you're pitching this show for the first time, put your eyes almost put yourself almost in their shoes. What could this be as in mainstream? Like, how big could it be? And why did it not hit that?
I think it's a multitude of reasons. One being Nickelodeon itself. Two being the shows that Avatar was surrounded by at the time, and which might be obviously be it's Nickelodeon related, but I think there's more. You can make an argument of an actual network side of things, the time slot that they have it aired and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, the shows that it's surrounded by at the time, and the unavailability at the time for streaming.
You think it was just streaming though? Because this came out.
Did you not hear what I just said?
Well, no, I mean, more.
Did you not hear?
No, but
I literally said 3 reasons. Matthias James. You don't deserve to ask.
No, you gave me 3 reasons. But one of those reasons was it didn't hit mainstream because of non-streaming / its time slot. I would say my argument against that would be no one had streaming back then. So,
no.
You know what I mean? Like, streaming only became popular in 2018. No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, when it came out back in 2004, around The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, you can even say Hunger Games a couple years later, and then even animated shows or animes like Dragon Ball Z and Yu-Gi-Oh! That we talk about all the time, and other shows kind of similar to it. Mm-hmm. And then it's with the Nickelodeon aspect, you have huge shows like SpongeBob and dare I say Drake and Josh. Yeah. But shows was it just because it was kind of a combination of all 3? So there was never home to sit in, because it was like a Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, but it was kind of anime, but not really anime. And it was on a platform like Nickelodeon, but it was like no other Nickelodeon show. So it's do you think that might have been one of the reasons, kind of what you were alluding to, I guess, with your couple of different reasons?
Yeah, clearly. When you're mentioning Dragon Ball Z, those were Saturday morning cartoons. They were not during the day. Avatar, new episodes of Avatar, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they were Friday night. And so,
yeah, at least Korra was, yeah.
And so
right.
And so when you're 10, 12, when even a little bit younger, even a little bit older, you're into other things at this time, like WWE, Friday Night SmackDown, that's on. You're in the shows that we just mentioned with it's surrounded by SpongeBob, it's surrounded by Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom. I personally think it was a bad time slot for the network, in terms of the network, Nickelodeon, having it be put on later on in the day. That's why, for me, my personal opinion is why it hasn't reached that much mainstream because that's when the new episodes came out, and us as kids, we are doing other things at that time rather than like Saturday morning cartoons. You're waking up and watching it like during the time slots of like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. Like we'd all wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, or even sometimes before that, to watch the new episodes of those shows that were on like Kids WB and whatnot. And so I personally think a part of the reason is like the time slot that Nickelodeon put on Avatar.
Okay, yeah, I never thought that the time slot would be your only reason of why you think.
I said other 3 reasons.
I know, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so, and what were the other 2 reasons?
That there was the unavailability of streaming. Because Avatar, increased so much popularity because of it got brought back to Netflix at that time. Now, to be fair, I remember when Avatar was on Netflix, also around like 2013, 2014.
Really?
It was actually, I remember watching it on Netflix like at that time. It was on for maybe like 2 years, and then they took it off for up until COVID.
Contract reasons.
Yeah, because that's where I remember used to watching it. I used to like watch it in other places, but
what?
So
the way you said that.
But no, I mean, there were other ways to watch it, and besides Netflix at the time, like there was I remember also Nickelodeon, the main network, would not air a lot of reruns of Avatar. You'd have to go to a Nickelodeon affiliate called Nicktoons Network. They would have the reruns of Avatar. No one except me and a few other people, like no one went to Nicktoons Network to watch Avatar. Like I remember growing up, and they'd have marathons, and it was awesome. Like Nicktoons Network would have like the first 10 episodes or even longer of Avatar, seasons 1, episode 1 through 10. They would have marathons of the continuing episodes like every day. They'd be like Avatar marathon weekend, and you'd have to go to Nicktoons Network to watch it. They'd also have Speed Racer, and other shows for reruns. But like I remember, like the main network of Nickelodeon, they would not have it. You'd have to go into like the hundreds and the TV channels to get it.
Do you think that was a confidence thing? Like Nickelodeon was not confident in the show enough to put it, because it seemed like every time you even got on Nickelodeon as a kid, it was like SpongeBob. All right, cool. 2 episodes of SpongeBob. Drake and Josh. Okay. What's next? It was like almost the same recycled shows. A lot of times it was the same recycled Fairly Odd Parents. Like there was a lot of them that would come out pretty much every day. Do you think Nickelodeon just didn't have the confidence in Avatar: The Last Airbender? Maybe they thought you had to watch, because you had to watch it all, and it was a episodic show. It wasn't like you could just turn on any episode and just watch it. They figured that it was better when it came to like events and marathons, and less of just let's put out the Storm episode randomly. Let's put out one episode and it's just Balto the Water Tribe. Do you think that's maybe a reason as well?
Well, here's another thing to look at it too, right? So like you got SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, Drake and Josh. That was more of a comedic short run show. But Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob, they were long-lasting shows. With Avatar, it was just 3 seasons, and that was it. There was a short time frame there. With Drake and Josh, like it was just that show was live. It blew up comedically for the audience, and so that's why they kept airing reruns of Drake and Josh, because they could bring in they can bring in a laughing track, and it's just how the network runs, right? It's about ratings. So at the time, it didn't get many ratings, and that's what the show Avatar didn't get many ratings with the audience, and that's what we're talking about now, with the reasons why that was, with the time slot, with and even like advertising. Like, yeah, they did advertise it like for the not the unaired pilot that we saw, but for the episodes 1 and 2 pilot, the first episodes that they brought out in season 1. But they didn't advertise it like much for seasons 2. They advertised it a little bit in season 3 with Sozin's Comet, but that was about it. There was not much to go off of. And so you had to, like, if you were a fan of the show, you had to pay attention. That's just the bottom line, because you had to, like, because it's not streaming, right? Like, no Netflix at the time that was like on your TV. Like, there was no random day that you could just turn on Avatar if you wanted to. Like, you had to like
go to your guide and like find out and like pay attention to when the episode was coming in. Yeah.
Right. You had to follow it.
I really do think, I think Nickelodeon. Go ahead.
I was going to end it with like SpongeBob. You can just, like, no one cared. Like, I'm not going to say no one, but I'm exaggerating, but no one really cared about the new episode of SpongeBob or the new episode of Fairly Odd Parents, because they just kept recycling the episodes. And so, like, if you didn't see an episode that they were doing a rerun of, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna sit down and watch this one. I haven't seen this one. And so, like, it was just a continuous cycle of episodes that they could just like put out there that could attract an audience with humor, and whatnot. There's like, there's tons of episodes with SpongeBob, Fairly Odd Parents, and what have you.
Yeah, Nickelodeon went on that streak, and Disney too, but they went on that streak of like, it's weird. It's almost like scrolling, in a sense. Like, it's this weird. I'm sure there's something that has to do with the brain and how it works, but it's like a weird, like, I don't really care too much about this show, but I'm almost addicted to it, in a sense of like, I'll sit down and watch it. Like, I guarantee you, The Office, SpongeBob, a lot of these like funny comedies, and some people love The Office, but like, there's a lot of shows out there that people are like, I like it a lot, but I don't follow it in the sense of like, I'm waiting for the next episode to drop. I don't follow it in the sense of I care about all these characters. I watch it because it's funny and it's a fun time for 20 minutes, and then I move on. But there's oversaturation of it, from marketing, from it being on nonstop, from even things like going to the store and seeing SpongeBob everywhere, that it's almost like it's almost like an addiction. And each episode of SpongeBob was like 12 minutes. So it was like a quick watch. You get 2 episodes. So it was always a quick watch, but you never were like, when's the next? I mean, they'd have those events with like Patchy the Pirate, or the heck his name was, but like no one was ever like, oh, I can't wait for the next Did you guys see the trailer for the new SpongeBob episode? Like, I'm so pumped. Like, no one talked about that. So no one, like, I don't think no one truly cared about SpongeBob as a show, but they liked watching it because it was like, it was just entertaining. It's hard to explain, because it was just real quickly. I was going to say, because like you said, I don't think Nickelodeon had the confidence, because they didn't put a lot of marketing into it. They didn't put it in a great time slot, and the same thing with Korra. And you would think with I hate to say a show that was popular, because I don't know how popular Avatar was when it came on, but you would think with a show like it is, where it's a little bit more structured in the sense of a long-term story, they would almost use it as could this be our next kind of genre that we do? Like, wow, Avatar worked. Let's find more of these. And I'm sure they did throughout like the 2010s. I just was getting too old. But like, Nickelodeon seems to find like a niche to do, and then they do it for a while. Like, okay, let's do boy bands. Let's do a bunch of let's do a bunch of shows about boy bands, or let's do a bunch of shows about two friends that are guys that hang out and do stuff like like a Drake and Josh or a Keenan and Kel, or maybe that was just Zack Snyder being a creep. But it seemed like there's a lot of shows. What?
Dan Snyder.
I'm sorry, Zack Snyder too. But there seemed to be a lot of shows that were like very similar to each other, and I'm shocked that they didn't do the same with Avatar. And they were like, look, people like this show. Let's pump some marketing into it, because if it becomes big, then we can do another show like Avatar and start asking people to pitch us ideas and be like, I want the next Avatar. Like I want the next SpongeBob. Cool, give me, Adventure Time or something. I want the next Avatar. Some type of show that's about a young person or an object that has to go on an adventure and has a group of friends with him, and they have a task to do, like a Lord of the Rings or like a Harry Potter, where there's an overarching villain and a fantasy world. Yeah. And so I'm shocked they didn't do that.
So two things. One, like I remember, like, growing up, not everyone watched Avatar. That much was clear. That much was clear. But those that did, you either were a fan of it, like me and other, like some of my friends, or you didn't, or you thought it was okay. No one hated the show. Like, there, from my experience, no one said, I do not like this.
Yeah, it's why it has all 3 seasons have 100% Rotten Tomatoes.
Facts.
So that's why, because Rotten Tomatoes is positive or negative scores, and literally no one, like, out of all their 400 people that gave ratings for it, all their certified fresh Rotten Tomato critics, none of them said it was a bad show. Boom. They all gave it at least a 3.
Yeah, it's so, like, if you have enough people watching, then you're going to keep continuing the show, and so therefore Avatar became successful on Nickelodeon, successful enough to have it continue on for all 3 seasons. And so that was just like my first point of, like, there was enough there already to move it forward. And the second point I was going to say that you brushed on a little bit was that there was another channel network like Nickelodeon that was also competing for viewers, which is Disney. And so you got Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. You got Hannah Montana. You got like, what I'm trying to think of the end, Kim Possible.
Lizzie McGuire, Even Stevens, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, you are Wizards of Waverly Place. Like, you are competing with either someone who's very pro Disney, like, if someone who's pro Disney is really not going to go towards Nickelodeon. If they do, they're going to go to SpongeBob, they're going to Nickelodeon, they're going to the main shows that they air. And so Avatar gets overlooked.
It's almost like the studio knew that, almost playing it safe. They're like, we know what the audience likes. We know our competition does. We need to stick in the realm of that to try to get as many, because if we do a show that is about a new character, let's not say it's Avatar, let's say Airbender, but let's say let's do a show that's kind of like Hunger Games, right? And obviously it's not going to be Hunger Games, but it's about, tribes and different things and people fighting over land or whatever. And they're like, we're going to do something creative, something different, something a little bit more unique. The chance of it completely bombing goes up. Where if you do, it's a group of friends, it's cartoonish, some funny stuff to it, and they like to skateboard. Cool, rocket power, success. Group of friends, I know this came early, but group of friends, they're all little babies. They get into, stupid problems. It's a 15-minute episode. Cool, Rugrats. Group of friends hanging out in New York City. They all have weird shaped heads and make fun of each other. Hand art. It's like they stuck with very much like small town, one location, mini quick 12-minute episodes. Interesting concept that every episode has that same location, same concept, same mini villain. Almost the same story, almost like a formula. And that's what all those shows in Nickelodeon did. but they knew it worked, and they knew if they went too much away from the norm, then they wouldn't be. It's almost like you have a niche that you do, and you don't want to go away from it because you want to be known for something. So
Right.
they knew that was like going back to like the way the mind works. It's like you don't want to do too many different things because they're not known for one. People almost make fun of Marvel for a while. They're like, every Marvel movie's the same. It's like, you think that's not on purpose? It is. Like, they want you to know what you're getting yourself into before you go, and no matter what, you're gonna have a good time because they already know the formula. And they're like, and they're gonna stray away a little bit once in a blue moon. They're gonna stretch it out a little bit, make a movie like Thor Ragnarok or a movie like Civil War, but they are very still similar, and they had a formula going on, and that's why they knew it. So it's kind of the same with Nickelodeon for a while.
Yeah, you put the nail on the head. And I think
I mean, really, Marvel's just like Nickelodeon, just less molestation. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. At least, well, all Disney does is just put sexual content in their movies, like, subconsciously. So
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Well, speaking of Disney, really quick before you hit your next point, you mentioned something about Lion King. So I don't know if you're going to bring that up eventually, or
I mean, yes, it was just an example of. I was going to give like movies that we think are great now, but they were not. They were overlooked when they came out. One example.
Overlooked?
No, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
The one movie that gets overlooked, but everyone claims is their top 5, if not top 3 favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption came out in 1994. It got a lot of Oscar nominations. Right?
I was going to say, did it win an Oscar?
But it didn't win many, if not, it either won a little, like 1 or 2, or none at all. But here's the thing. Forrest Gump came out that year. Lion King came out that year. Pulp Fiction came out that year. The box office for Shawshank Redemption was actually pretty bad. Like, it was not.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say, is like movies that, like, it's just giving you an example of like a movie that gets overlooked, but now everybody claims to be like like one of the best movies of all time.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, even though it didn't get the acclaim that it did when it came out.
At least box office wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, being nominated to an Oscar and then losing to Forrest Gump isn't necessarily like the end of the world, because it's like, those are 2 all-time classic.
Right.
A lot of people look at them as like 2 of, the most classic 90 movies there are. Right. I mean, it's interesting. I would have to think of a couple other franchises or even just movies that are like that, where it's like no one they weren't very popular at the moment, and then they became popular over time.
Right.
I mean, I know there's a lot of shows that come out and they don't do great on other channels or other services, and then Netflix picks them up and then runs with them, and they get more popular. Like You is a perfect example, a great show that I like, and came out with 1 season, didn't do great, then Netflix picked it up and it became pretty big.
You? When was that?
Yeah, You was not a Netflix original.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where did
I have to look.
Yeah, was it
You original?
Like, I know
network.
I know Cobra Kai came out the first 2 seasons on YouTube, and then Cobra Kai got on Netflix.
Yeah, it started on Lifetime Network for 1 season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Season 1 was great.
Yeah, again, that's another thing. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Season 1 was great, and it just didn't. It's so tough. I mean, who watches network? Lifetime Network. So it's like, so they dropped it, and they probably, again, going back to what we were just talking about a minute ago, which is Lifetime Network probably has their niche, and they're like, anyone that watches our channel is not going to watch this, even if those shows great, because they have a specific. It's like having a great show on Animal Planet, and it's like about whatever. And it's like, well, people that go on. well, but even like a great show that's like imagine if there was a adventure, an animated adventure about animals, and it's animated, or it's an anime, and it's like, yeah, it's not doing that good. It's like, great show, but people don't go to the Animal Network to watch anime, and so it's like, maybe we should go put this somewhere else. And that's
Right.
I mean, like, when I think of Lifetime Network, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think of a psychopathic serial killer. That's like not what I think of. So, what do you mean? Joe was right. He had a point. But that's another podcast for another time. That's our you podcast that we're going to come out with in 2026.
Are you ready?
Are you? Yeah, so I think so too. I mean, I think there's another thing. I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier with Avatar, which is like it didn't really have a home. It didn't know what it knew what it was, but the audience didn't know what it was. It's like, okay, here's this animated show, but it's not for kid like children. It is adult themed. I mean, like, children can watch it, but like it's a show. It's a show that is a little bit more mature than a Rugrats Rocket Power. It is like an episodic show where you have to kind of watch it in order to really understand the story.
It's a story. That's literally
it's a story.
That's
right. It's a story.
SpongeBob,
right. I mean, but
Fairly Odd Parents, there's no story. Like,
yeah. So you have a story that's an animated show. It kind of flirts with the idea of being an anime, but it's not. So anime lovers didn't necessarily like invite it in, and it was nothing like any other Nickelodeon show. And so it's like, what really is it? And that's kind of, I think, why it didn't necessarily it did well, but that's why it wasn't looked at as one of the better shows. Now, I do think if they said, the creators were like, Netflix rejected them, and they were like, darn. And then they got picked up by, I don't know, HBO. Not even HBO. They got picked up by Warner Brothers, and they made it to a live action. Never even made it anime or animated, whatever. And they said, yeah, we're going to roll with this. This is a really cool concept. We're not putting out no, you guys are going to make this live action. Here's $200 million. Go make a couple movies. And they made like 3 movies or 3 or just 3 seasons of a show. But back in, 2000, like, when Breaking Bad came out, like, right. Breaking Bad was another one, by the way. Breaking Bad's another show that came out, was not big at all. And then, like, by like the 3rd or 4th season, people were like, no, this is amazing. But at first it was not big. A lot of people started watching it after it was over.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, you think if they went to HBO or if they went to one of these studios and they said, make live action originally, do you think it would have been okay? Do you think it would have, like, and let's say the show was standard. Let's say live action, they made it on some other network, and there was never an animated show, and it was amazing. It was just as good as the original, just as good as the one we actually got. Do you think it would have hit mainstream to the point where people were like, loved it as much as like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings?
No, I think I think your examples are in their own category. Like, I know what you're trying to say. Like, you're trying to put it on that level. Mm-hmm. I don't think it really comes necessarily close to that level.
Do you think it's because why is that?
Well, I mean, you got books that came out first of like Harry Potter, and you have it became a worldwide phenomenon. Lord of the Rings has been around for 70 odd plus years. Like, there's diehards, and if you just
you froze there.
Yeah. Okay. I just said, like, with Lord of the Rings, you and Harry Potter, you have like the diehard fans, where Avatar, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the show came out first, not the comics.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, comics came out way after. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way that
Avatar: Last Airbender was the original concept, the show, the animated show. Yeah.
So therefore,
no, I agree. I can agree with that. Yeah. So that's why, like, I always think of like it being on the same level as like right now, I would say it's the same level as like Narnia. when it comes to like, not obviously like how good it is, but like when it comes to the eyes of the average person, it's like on the same, like, what's the show that Andy loves?
He loves a lot of shows. How I Met Your Mother.
Jack something.
I just know
The
he likes
Olympian.
How I Met.
No. The Olympian show. The
Foxcatcher. That's the wrestling movie.
No, man. No, man. It's like in the realm of Lord of the Rings. It's like what we're talking about. Andy's super into it. Yes, it's a movie. It's a series. They're books.
I should know this.
This is embarrassing, John. You should know this.
This is embarrassing.
We should do a trivia night all about Andy. It's just an Andy trivia night.
But hey, he likes you. He likes How I Met Your Mother. Describe the show.
Like, it's again, it's like Olympian stuff, and there's like
Percy Jackson.
There we go. I knew it was some Jack. Yeah. So we're not editing that out. I'll send it over to Andy. Yeah. So like shows like that where it's like it's not as big as Harry Potter. Like I look at it as like the big four. I always call it the big four. You know, you have Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. They're all four of them are based off of a source material that has been around for years. Not as much Harry Potter, but still years, and they're all huge, mainstream, right? No, I'm sorry, the big five. I'm sorry, not the big four, the big five. The big five: Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel, DC.
Sure.
So that's like you have those five. In my opinion, you have those five, which I think, my opinion is correct. That's why it's my opinion. And then you have like about a dozen shows underneath of it, or movies, franchises underneath of it. You know, either that's, and I'm not talking like Fast and Furious. I'm talking like adventure, sword and sandal, type of franchises. And I think you can say Avatar is under there now.
Yes, it is. I would agree. I would agree with that. And I think a lot of it, and I'll be honest, a lot of it is thanks to Netflix. I mean, it's just, streaming has expanded the marketplace and the market of that for Avatar. Because I remember like thinking before Netflix, like way before Netflix, essentially since the show ended in 2008, I just remember trying to think of just getting the word out by word of mouth. Just how like difficult that can be reaching so many people, because like you want to have people, you want to have everybody watch the show that you love, that you know that the average person probably will like.
I've got like maybe five, or I had an ex-girlfriend watch it with me. One of my buddies, Adam, watched it. We were roommates. We watched it. My old roommate, Miranda, watched it with me. Like I got like everyone that I like. I'm like, oh, you've never seen the show before? Like obviously, like if it's someone that's like a really close friend or someone I live with, I'm like, we are watching this together. Like let's sit down. I want to see how I'm going to talk to you afterwards, like a reaction video type of thing, So, I'm sure.
Andy to watch it.
Did you?
Yes.
Bitch.
I probably have gotten at least 5 people. It's probably more, but I want to be generous. Probably like at least 5 people to watch it, and one of them, I got Justin to watch it, and it is now his like top 3, if not his favorite show.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, it's just like it's. I think it is very much like, I wouldn't say intimidating, because it's obviously not intimidating. I always tell people it's like the opposite of intimidating. I'm like, they're 20-minute episodes. There's only 60 episodes. It's not like One Piece where you're gonna watch 20 years worth of content. It's like, or even like a Yu-Gi-Oh. They're like, it's like, yeah, it's 6 seasons. There's 2 bad seasons. It's like Avatar's like, it gets better. You watch season 1. It's pretty good. It's a fun show. Season 2 gets way better. Season 3 gets way better. It's like there's no slump of episodes where you're like, I mean, there might be one here and there, but there's like always like there's never like a 3-episode arc where you're like, this sucks. It's like consistently very, very good. I think the only intimidating thing in it is that it is animated. And so again, it's like, well, because you have a lot of people that are 30 and they're like, I'm not watching some Nickelodeon animated show.
Well, no. Were you talking about like when it's on Netflix or when it was on Nickelodeon?
Just overall. Even when it was Nickelodeon, you go to your friends and I'm a little older than you, but you go to a friend in high school who's 19, 16, 17, they're like, dude, I'm not watching some show that airs next to Rugrats. And you're like, dude, trust me, it's awesome. And they're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's Friday night, man. You could stay in for Friday night. They're like, no, I'm going to a party. Right. So it was hard. It wasn't.
And that's what you took one of my other points, which I'm glad you did. But just to reiterate, is the fact that again it was on Nickelodeon,
right?
Like
yes.
So like you were just saying about 16 and 17-year-olds, like they're not going to watch Nickelodeon. They're not.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be doing Friday Night SmackDown, doing other things.
So you think if it was not on Nickelodeon, let's just say this animated show came out and it was on, I wouldn't even say Cartoon Network. I'll just say it was on a random channel that no one even knew about, right? Because there is some type of like, watch this show. It's on WB. It's on 4Kids. And you're like, isn't that the show that Yu-Gi-Oh came out on? Like, I'm not really into that anymore. Where it's like, oh, watch this. It comes on in between Zach and Cody and Lizzie McGuire, and they're like, I'm good. So there is. Go ahead.
The only way to get 16 to 17-year-olds to watch it is if you say it's on Adult Swim.
Right, exactly. So I would say this. I wonder if Avatar: The Last Airbender went on Adult Swim. The same exact show. It was in between 2 episodes of South Park and Invader Zim or whatever the fuck. And people would have been like, this is fucking awesome, dog. I get high and watch it, And then but again, it's like it's on Nickelodeon. Like there's so many shows out there that I remember watching, and I was always kind of wondering, like I had a couple friends, but I was always kind of wondering in the corner of my head, like, I wonder if a lot of people just don't watch the show because of the idea of it. It's like, oh yeah, and then they look at it and they're like, it looks kind of cartoonish. This kid with an arrow in his head. You have this like flying monster. Like you just see it and you're like, that's not really for me. Right. And it's like, well, I give it a chance, but also like, it's like anything, but it's like, I really do think that Nickelodeon soured it a little bit.
Like my girlfriend will not watch it. Well, she's gonna change.
Oh, get rid of that. It's like,
change your mind. She's gonna change her mind. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
She's gonna change her mind.
She will change her mind. Okay.
Yeah, she'll change her mind. But the main reason why she's like so strong, like she doesn't look forward to watching it, is because it is a cartoon. She does not like cartoons, and I'm just like, well, sorry, but you're.
Should I make that dating website for you now, or?
No, she'll enjoy it.
She'll watch it.
Let's just say,
it was the same with my old roommate Miranda. She was not into animated, but it was during COVID. So we had nothing to do, so we would just watch a shit ton of shows. And it was funny. I literally just moved to the city, and I had 2 female roommates, and they were nice. We didn't really talk too much. I lived in the basement, and then COVID, and I was more friendly with this roommate because we would like. The other one kind of had her own thing going on, and me and her would like go grab drinks, and she had some friends over. So, and it was right around when I got Kylo as well. And then COVID hit, and we started watching all the Marvel movies together. And then I was like, dude, but you need to watch Avatar. And she was like, I don't know, but I guess she trusted my opinion because I got her super into Marvel, and then she watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I mean, she loved it. So. It is, and it's like you gotta almost like it's like you gotta watch the show and then explain to them how it's not what they think it is.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's I'm just trying to think of like if it was on any other channel, would it have done better, or like if it was on Disney for whatever reason, I think it might have done a little bit better just because the Disney audience is probably a little bit better than Nickelodeon.
Well, I just think it's all about the studio. Even movies, it's all about the studio. Do they believe in the project? So I think part of Nickelodeon didn't know how to market it. They didn't know what age group to market it to. They didn't know how to handle the story of, okay, this is something you need to watch. Like you said, there are many marathons on, so they might have thought like, hey, if you're going to watch an episode, you got to watch like 10. So instead of putting them on like random episodes all the time, we'll just like pick once a week. We put like just drop like 12 back to back to back, and then like just like once a week, you know. And so it's like, but I don't know if that was actually their strategy or not, but it seemed like that's how it was. So it's, I just feel like it all depends on the studio. You know, some studios put out a movie and you're like, I saw one trailer, and then you watch it, and, you know, and you're like, the studio doesn't seem confident. Then you watch it and you're like, that was actually pretty damn good. Like maybe it wasn't as great as some other movies, but that was like a good movie. Yeah. And you know, and so it's like I think it all really just depends on the confidence of a studio. And I think maybe Nickelodeon wasn't as confident, you know, as they could have been. Where Netflix got it, it got big, and they were all confident. They were like, we're making a studio for it, Avatar studio. We're gonna greenlight a live action show. Like we're gonna pump everything up. So yeah, I mean, like some people don't even know about Korra. It's like there's a whole sequel series that's like 50 episodes, 55. You're watching it now. We'll talk about that. You know, the third review will become up this Saturday morning. So season 3 review. But like, I think a lot of people walk away from Korra and they're like, nah. But I think when you rewatch it once or twice, you're like, that's a good show. It's a good show that has a lot of hiccups, but it's a good show. And like the fact that they don't even promote that, it's like that's a solid sequel series.
Yeah.
And you don't hear anything from them.
When Korra came out, I remember it was the same type of advertisement for Avatar. It was the same in the sense of like just overlooked. So yeah. Like if you're a fan of the original, you would be a fan. You would tune in to the new show. But there wasn't a heavy advertising blitz for the show for either Korra or Avatar: The Last Airbender. There was just no. There was no real effort to gain an audience because I bet you any money they probably didn't really expect to. They didn't really.
But yeah, and that goes back to marketing. Because I think what I've heard is that season 1 of Korra, they didn't want a female protagonist, and apparently the creators kind of talked them into it, and so they're like, okay, fine. And I believe they gave them like 12 episodes, and then they were like, well, this story that we're making, we want it to be 14. So they had to like fight for an extra 2 episodes. And then the studio gave them obviously 1 season. So they made their story beginning to end, ends with, you know, Korra and Mako kissing and her being and Tenzin being like, you know, I'm proud of you, Avatar Korra, and it ends, and it even says the end, you know, and you're like, that's they thought it was 1 season, and then it did better than they thought. They thought it would be like a throwaway thing. It ended up doing better than they thought. They came out with season 2. They did the same thing. They're like, here's 12 episodes. I think season 2 is 12 episodes. So they're like, here's 12 episodes, 1 season, have at it. And then it was successful again. So they're like, all right, we'll give you 2 more seasons, season 3 and season 4. And I think this Nickelodeon, I don't know if it's because of the numbers, which is a whole other thing. Because again, it came out on Friday nights.
Right.
And we'll talk about that in a second. But I don't know if it was the numbers or it got a little bit too mature for the audience of Nickelodeon. They started putting like season 4 online, and it was just.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, season 4 was exclusively online. I remember waking up and me and my brother would watch it on my laptop. And going back to Friday nights, you know, that's fine and dandy when it's SpongeBob and even Avatar: The Last Airbender. But when your audience is the audience of Avatar: The Last Airbender, now 5 years later, they are legit 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I think I was like 21 or maybe 20. I was 20, I think. So it's like maybe 19. I don't know. But I was, you know, college. And so a college school, you know, college or late high schools on a Friday night is not going to be like, let me hang out and watch Korra at 10 p.m. They want to go out with their friends. And so it's almost like Nickelodeon wanted it to fail because of whatever reason. They wanted it to fail.
Either that or they weren't thinking about it. And that went back to my earlier point of like, there were other things as for us kids to be doing and or watching on Friday night. Like I said, like WWE, we were doing sports, we were doing extracurricular activities, not getting home until 8:30, 9 o'clock when we're missing the tail end of the episode or whatever. It's just, it was a bad time slot for the age group that they were trying to go for.
Yeah, they probably knew that they had, and it's interesting because Nickelodeon might have thought, this might be overthinking it, but they might have thought that this show will compete with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Jackie Chan Adventures type of kids, which came out on Saturday mornings. So they were like, we'll stay away from Saturday mornings, so maybe that's why, because it is odd that they didn't put it on Saturday mornings to try to compete with like a Jackie Chan or something, and like kind of put it around the same time slot, but maybe a little bit different, like knowing that they're already going to be kids sitting down to watch Pokemon, then Yu-Gi-Oh, then Jackie Chan. Because I remember it was those three. It was Pokemon back-to-back episodes, Yu-Gi-Oh back-to-back episodes, Jackie Chan Adventures back-to-back episodes, and it was essentially 3 hours of greatness from like 8 to 11. and I'm shocked why they weren't like, you know what, 11 to 12. So interesting. I do think that Netflix didn't believe in it as much as they could have. So
Netflix or Nickelodeon?
Or Nickelodeon, sorry. Nickelodeon.
Yeah, Netflix definitely believed in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Netflix was like, we'll give you, because you would think that, like, I guess this is way before, never mind. I was going to say, you would think they would have been like, after the success, like, oh, here's your own studio and let's pump out more of these. But this was before like the cinematic universe stuff hit. So, because that got big, obviously, like in the 2008s, 2010s with Marvel.
Right, but it wasn't. But even at that time, Avatar wasn't a huge hit still. Back in 08. Like it wasn't a huge hit until Netflix put it during COVID.
Yeah, and I do think that. Yeah, there. Good.
No, just that. Like, you just had the niche cult following during the years that it ran. I mean, I'll gladly admit I'm part of the cult. And so, not Marilyn Manson. But yeah, it just didn't grab the hook until Netflix grabbed it for during COVID. And like I said, it was on Netflix for like a year and a half, 2 years, from like 2013 to 2015, and then they took it off. But like at that time, everyone was figuring out what kind of shows to watch on Netflix. Like there wasn't any real Netflix originals, and so
Netflix wasn't as big either.
No.
Well, I think overall, like the culture of just kind of like the culture that we live in, like the nerd. I wouldn't say nerd, but like you have some people that are like, yeah, I casually watch it, but like I've never heard of / will see. Like I've told people like, oh, watch One Piece, and they'll like watch the trailer and they'll be like, this is not for me, man. Like I'm into dramas, I'm into Breaking Bad, I'm into Suits, I'm into Blacklist, which is cool. But like there are those type of people that are into more of just that type of culture. Like and Avatar is very much part of that, where it's like I'm in the anime, I'm into fantasy, I'm into, just more nerd stuff. I can't explain it besides saying like fantasy stuff, and so that is another reason why I think a lot of people don't watch it, because there's just a lot of people that aren't into that, and they'll dip their toes in it, like a Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, because it is, going back to the topic, such a mainstream thing where it's almost like they feel like they have to watch Marvel movies because Marvel's such a big thing right now. So I watch our Marvel movies, but normally they wouldn't sit down and be like if it never got big, they would have never watched it. there's a lot of people that didn't start watching Marvel until like Phase 3 because it became mainstream, right? And they weren't watching Captain America 1. Yeah, okay, but but they weren't sitting down.
That's when I got into Marvel.
Yeah, but you're also into a lot of other culture, like this culture. Trying to think of what it's called besides nerd culture, but I guess that is what it's called. Just fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about? Anything else you want to talk about before we end the pod for the day?
Oh, we're never ending.
The big 1-1.
La di da.
La di da. Comment, subscribe. Let's get it to 50.
Tell your friends, tell your family, go over, knock on your neighbor's door, just say Cabbage Crew.
If you have a family member, break into their YouTube account, subscribe to us. They'll never even know. It's fine. And by the way, comment below. What's your favorite of the big 5 that I mentioned? How about that? Change pace a little bit. What's your favorite of the big 5? Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, DC, and Harry Potter. What is your favorite out of those 5? And is any of them, is Avatar better than all of them, or where do you want to place Avatar on that list? I'll put it number 1. But
and why do you think Avatar never went mainstream? Also comment that below.
That as well. Yeah, if you don't like our argument, let us know. Peace.